7 demonic tests, proving you're among the strongest dark chosen ones. There's a secret path that only a few ever walk, and even fewer survive. It's not marked by light, praise, or peace. It's carved in silence, shadow, and suffering. This path is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who carry a vibration so ancient, so raw, and so misunderstood that the world often mistakes it for something demonic. But what most don't realize is this: the ones who carry this energy aren't possessed by darkness, they're forged by it. And if you're watching this, chances are you've already been tested. You've already been called. You've already felt the pressure of invisible forces molding you into something greater. These are not random hardships. These are the 7 demonic tests, spiritual initiations so intense they break most people. But if you survive them, if you integrate them, you emerge as one of the strongest dark chosen ones alive. Let's start with the first and most brutal test: isolation from the tribe. From an early age, you probably felt like you didn't belong. Maybe you were the black sheep, the outsider, the one who questioned everything. While others followed blindly, you resisted. Your presence made people uncomfortable. You weren't trying to rebel, you were just being you. But even that was too much. So you were cast out emotionally, spiritually, or even physically. But here's the hidden truth: isolation is the first sign that your soul is being set apart for something greater. The universe removes you from the crowd, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because you cannot hear the voice of your higher self in the noise of the herd. You must be pulled into the void, into silence, into solitude. And in that silence you begin to remember who you are beyond conditioning, beyond roles, beyond the false self. Ask yourself, how many times have you been alone, not just physically but cosmically? And in that loneliness, did you feel destruction or revelation?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The second test is the rejection of the light. This one is subtle, but it cuts the deepest. You chase spiritual truth. You meditate, you pray, you do everything right. But the light doesn't reward you. Instead of peace, you get chaos. Instead of answers, you get silence. Instead of breakthroughs, you get breakdowns. And eventually, a dark thought creeps in. Maybe the light has rejected me. Maybe I'm not meant to ascend. But this, too, is part of the test. Because you're not here to follow the light. You're here to integrate it, to master both light and dark. You're not a seeker, you're a balancer. And sometimes the light must step back so the darkness can rise, not to destroy you, but to initiate you. This is when many give up. They turn bitter, cynical, or numb. But the dark chosen one doesn't collapse. We go inward. We realize we weren't rejected, we were redirected away from superficial light and toward the deeper, cosmic truth that transcends duality. The third test is the temptation of self-destruction. This is where the demonic vibration really reveals itself. Not as a monster outside of you, but as a whisper within. It says, end it, ruin it, burn it down. And the scariest part, it doesn't come with fear. It comes with relief. That's how you know it's real. It doesn't scream, it seduces, it promises rest. And if you're not anchored, you'll believe it. Many of us have walked that razor's edge between breakthrough and breakdown, between evolution and death. I have. And if you're honest, you probably have too. But here's what you need to understand. That voice isn't trying to kill you. It's trying to kill the ego, the false you, the version of you that's addicted to pain, validation, control. And if you survive that moment, if you choose to feel instead of flee, you gain something priceless: sovereignty. The ability to sit with your darkness without letting it devour you. That's power. That's mastery. That's proof that you're one of the strongest. Then comes the fourth test, the mirror of the monster. This one is terrifying because it forces you to see the parts of yourself you've hidden: the manipulator, the coward, the liar, the shadow. Not in others, in you. The universe begins to reflect your deepest fears, flaws, and traumas through people and situations. You attract narcissists, betrayers, abusers not because you're cursed, but because they're mirrors. And your job is not to destroy them. It's to decode them, to ask, what part of me do they reflect? That's the real work, and it hurts like hell. But once you face the monster in the mirror and love it, you unlock a level of self-awareness that no one can take from you. You become invincible, not because you're perfect, but because you've made peace with your imperfection. The fifth test is the spiritual disguise. This is when the demonic vibration hides itself behind your gifts. You become powerful. You can manifest, influence, attract. People start looking up to you. But secretly, you're addicted to the power. You're using your gifts to control, to escape, to feed the very ego you thought you had transcended. This is where many fall, because spiritual power without humility becomes a trap, a false throne. The strongest dark chosen ones are the ones who give the power back, who don't need followers or praise, who disappear into the forest after they've reached the mountaintop, because they know true power is silent. It doesn't need to be seen, it just is. These are only 5 of the 7 demonic tests, and if any of this feels like your life story, then you're not imagining it. You've been walking this path your whole life. You just didn't have the language for it. Until now. The last 2 demonic trials that shatter illusion and awaken the eternal warrior within. But there's a point on this path where the darkness stops playing games. It no longer tests you in subtle, symbolic ways. It comes at you with full force, not to destroy you, but to see if there's anything left in you that can be destroyed. This is where the final 2 demonic tests begin. And these are the most dangerous, the most sacred, and the most revealing. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't about religion or superstition. It's about soul architecture. It's about energy codes. It's about becoming the version of yourself that cannot be manipulated, broken, or controlled. These last 2 trials are not external events. They are internal initiations. They happen in silence, in the dark, in the hidden chambers of your being where only you can go. And once you pass them, you don't just become a dark chosen one. You become an eternal warrior, a living force of truth, embodiment, and power that nothing in this world can corrupt. The 6th test is the death of the identity. This is where everything you've built, your beliefs, your dreams, even your spiritual persona begins to collapse. It doesn't matter how awakened you think you are. The universe will strip it all away, not out of cruelty, but because even your highest self-image is still an illusion. This test feels like death, because in a way it is. You lose your sense of purpose, and your motivation disappears. Your vision becomes foggy. The things that once gave you meaning, your work, your relationships, your mission, suddenly feel hollow. You walk through life in a haze, asking, "Who am I now?" And there's no answer, just silence. But here's the secret no one tells you. That silence is sacred. It's the womb of your rebirth. The identity has to die so the essence can emerge. You're not here to be anything. You're here to embody everything without attachment, without ego, without a need to be seen. When this test hits, the weak cling to old labels. They try to resurrect what was. But the strong, the chosen, they surrender. They let themselves dissolve. And from that dissolution comes something terrifying and beautiful: emptiness. Not the kind that is void of meaning, but the kind that is free from form. A peace that isn't dependent on anything. A strength that doesn't need validation. A clarity that comes not from figuring things out, but from finally letting go. And then, after you've been emptied, after the fire has burned everything false away, you arrive at the seventh and final test, the invitation to rule. This is the most subtle and the most seductive of all. You've survived the fire. You've mastered your shadows. You've gained wisdom, power, magnetism. And now the universe says, what will you do with it? This is where your soul's final alignment is revealed. Because the temptation isn't always to fall, it's to rise too fast, too far, for the wrong reasons. You will be offered influence, fame, leadership, authority. People will look to you as a guide, a savior, a sable. And in that moment, the deepest question will arise: will you rule from ego or essence? This test is so dangerous because it feels like success. But if you haven't cleared your inner hunger for recognition, you'll turn your power into a prison. You'll need to be needed. You'll become addicted to being seen as the one. You'll lose your sovereignty in the name of service. And that's not mastery, that's ego in spiritual disguise. The true dark chosen ones pass this test by choosing invisibility over influence, impact over image, truth over popularity. They don't need a kingdom. They are the kingdom. Their presence is the throne. Their silence is the crown. So I ask you now, can you be powerful without needing to be praised? Can you be a leader without needing followers? Can you hold sacred space without making it about you? Because if you can, then you're not just chosen. You're proven. You've passed the final test. And when that happens, something irreversible shifts inside you. The illusions of this world no longer grip you. You see through the games. You move differently. You speak less, but your words carry thunder. You stop chasing alignment and become it. No ritual, no title, no external validation holds weight anymore. You are the temple. You are the force. You are the embodiment of the abyss and the light, integrated as one. These final two trials are not conquered with willpower. They're passed through surrender, through radical honesty, through deep, internal death. And once you emerge from them, you're not the same. You can't be. Because now you're not walking through the world hoping to be seen, you're walking through the world seeing everything, awake, unshaken, eternal. How to use your demonic past to unlock unshakable purpose and supernatural authority. If you've made it through the 7 tests, there's something you need to understand, something most never will. Your past, no matter how dark, how chaotic, how painful, was never a mistake. It wasn't random. It wasn't punishment. It was precision. Every experience, every betrayal, every moment you wanted to give up, it was all part of a cosmic equation, a divine engineering of your soul's awakening. You weren't being broken. You were being built. And now, with that fire still smoldering in your bones, you are being asked to do the unthinkable. Use it. Not to survive, not to cope, but to create, to lead, to command. Because the most powerful force on this earth is not someone who has never tasted darkness, it's someone who has mastered it, transmuted it, and now chooses to wield it in service of something greater than themselves. So many spiritual seekers spend their lives trying to erase their past. They want to cleanse it, bury it, forget it. But we do the opposite. We honor it. Because the pain you've survived is not a scar, it's a seal. It marks you as one who has seen the underworld and returned with vision. And that vision is your authority. That's what gives your words weight. That's what makes your presence magnetic. People feel it. They don't know what it is, but they feel it. That unshakable calm. That quiet certainty. That frequency that says, I've died before. I've lost everything, and I still rise. That's not something you can fake. That's not something you can study. That's something you earn. But here's where most chosen ones get stuck. They survive the fire, but they never step into their power. They carry the wisdom, but they stay silent. They've walked through hell, but they still play small. Why? Because they're afraid. Afraid of being seen. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of becoming what they once ran from. But here's the paradox. Your fear of your own power is the final illusion. And until you confront it, you will always live beneath your potential. You will always dim your light, not because others told you to, but because you never gave yourself permission to shine. So I ask you now, what if everything you went through was training? What if the abuse, the loss, the depression, the self-hate, what if all of it was the curriculum for your mastery? What if your demons were never there to destroy you, but to teach you how to wield fire without burning yourself? What if your past is not a chain but a sword? This is where purpose is born, not from textbooks, not from gurus, but from the ashes of your own becoming. Your purpose doesn't show up when life is perfect, but it reveals itself in the ruins, in the trauma, in the breakdown. That's when the soul speaks. That's when the real assignment is downloaded. And for those of us who've walked with demons, the assignment is always the same: become the medicine you never received. Speak the truth no one spoke to you. Hold the space you never had. Be the guide, the protector, the fire that you needed when you were lost. That's not just purpose, that's spiritual justice. But let's go deeper, because once you accept your past, once you own your story, something miraculous happens. You unlock supernatural authority, not over others, but over energy. You begin to command rooms without saying a word. You walk into spaces, and people feel safer, braver, clearer. You say things others are afraid to say, and the room goes silent not because you're loud, but because your energy is clean. Authority isn't about dominance. It's about alignment. When your inner world is integrated, your outer world starts to obey. Doors open. People listen. Paths clear. not because of luck, but because you've become a vessel for something higher. And this authority isn't just for speeches or stages, but it shows up in your relationships, your business, your creativity. You'll notice your intuition sharpening, your timing becoming impeccable, your words landing with surgical precision. This is when you move from being a seeker to being a force. And it's not about ego. You don't need applause. You don't need followers. You don't even need to be understood, because you're not here for approval. You're here for impact. But here's the final twist. Once you reach this level of embodiment, the universe will test you again. Not with pain, not with loss, but with influence. You'll be given platforms, opportunities, power. And the question will be, will you use it for self-glorification or for collective liberation? Will you build an empire or a sanctuary? Will you lead from trauma or from truth? This is where your past becomes your compass. You remember what it's like to be invisible, to suffer in silence, to be led by false prophets. And because of that, you lead differently. You don't preach, you embody. You don't inflate, you activate. You don't chase fame, you carry fire. And that fire, when rooted in humility, becomes the most sacred force on earth. So don't run from your past. Don't hide your scars. Don't silence your story. We need it. The world needs it. Because in a world addicted to illusion, your truth is revolutionary. And your authority, your real, earned, spiritual authority is the key to becoming unstoppable. The final integration, becoming the living blueprint for the next generation of spiritual warriors. When you pass through all 7 tests, when you've faced your demons, embraced your past, and stepped fully into your embodied authority, there's one more step, a step most people never even consider. But it's not about what you know or even what you do. It's about what you become. You see, this path isn't about collecting knowledge or proving your strength. It's about integration, about becoming so whole, so aligned, so real, that you don't need to say a word. Your presence alone becomes a transmission. You become a living blueprint, a walking code, a frequency that others can feel, even if they don't understand it. And that's when you stop being a seeker and start becoming a source. There's a kind of stillness that only warriors who've surrendered everything can carry. But it's not the stillness of peace that's never been disturbed, it's the stillness that comes after the storm. The kind of groundedness that comes from having been shattered and reassembled by divine fire. That's what the world needs now. Not more influencers, not more gurus, but embodied ones. People who've walked through hell and chose to build heaven anyway. People who don't need to convince you of anything because standing next to them feels like a home you forgot existed. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing and start embodying? Are you willing to live in such alignment with your truth that just being in your energy makes others remember their own? That's what it means to be the blueprint. It's not about shouting your truth, it's about being it. It's about holding contradictions, walking with mystery, and radiating power without needing recognition. It's about teaching not through lectures, but through presence. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Not because you're isolated, but because few will understand the depth of what you carry. You'll walk into rooms and feel everything. You'll see through masks, Hear the pain in people's silence. Feel their unmet hunger for truth. And yet, your job won't be to fix them. Your job will be to hold frequency, to be the calm in the storm, the mirror that doesn't judge, and the fire that doesn't burn but illuminates. That's the final integration. When your gifts are no longer tools you use, they're just who you are. You don't try to be intuitive, you are intuition. You don't try to lead, you lead by embodying integrity. You don't try to heal, you walk into spaces and the healing begins organically. Not because of effort, but because of coherence. Because your inner world is so aligned, your outer world naturally follows. That's not magic, that's spiritual physics. And this is what the next generation needs. Not more people trying to escape their darkness, but people who have integrated it. Not more voices shouting about love and light, but warriors anchored in truth, shadow and sovereignty. Be that person. Be the one who held the abyss in one hand and the stars in the other, and chose to walk forward with both. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be true. You're not here to save the world. You're here to remember yourself so deeply that others remember who they are too. That ripple, that's how the world changes. Not through force, but through frequency. So carry your scars like medals. Speak your story like scripture. Walk your path like a storm that's finally found its center. Because you are not just chosen, you are the proof. And the next generation of spiritual warriors will look to your life, not your words, to find their own path through the dark. And when they ask, "How did you survive?" you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because you finally understand the demons were never trying to kill you. They were trying to crown you. And you accepted the throne.